Hi, and welcome to another edition of FLX Weekly here at FingerLakes1.com. I'm Sydney Rogers, and we are live inside the FingerLakes1.com studio where I am joined by Jim Sinicropi and Josh Durso. I did that all different. It's April 1st, 2020, and we are still here. And today we're going to talk about coronavirus updates, and we have a lot going on actually at Finger Lakes One right now.
We do.
So
Announcements to make.
Yeah, we have a lot of announcements.
But first, Sydney, I hear that you have a big announcement that you're pregnant.
Oh my God, no! I do not have that announcement. That is not a real announcement. Very funny, April Fools on me. Okay. I was like, what do I have?
I didn't even see that one coming.
Sorry, guys, I can't give you that announcement yet.
No, we're all going a little stir crazy.
Yeah, we are. You just said right before we got on that you were losing your mind, and I feel you on that at a different level.
Yeah, there's just a lot. Not a good time to be a business owner. Actually, it might not be that bad a time depending on your business, but the relief packages and how to apply, everybody's going crazy, working with your bank, trying to defer this payment, that payment. I'm president at Seneca Falls Country Club. We're making decisions on we're even going to be open or not. It's just a lot.
I had a good glimmer of hope almost. I talked to a local restaurant owner earlier today on the phone, and he said that he's doing well. He's getting a good amount of takeouts and deliveries still in the Geneva area, and he's thankful for that. Yeah, it was at the Deluxe, and he said their issues were kind of like figuring out when to staff more people and when not, because you don't know if you're going to be flooded with takeout calls and deliveries or not, and I thought that was an interesting way to look at it.
I've talked to a lot of our customers here at Finger Lakes One who we host their website or email, or advertising customers, and most seem to be doing okay. They have either some, cash in reserves to get through this, or some sort of plan, or they've cut expenses. Everybody obviously is doing something, but there are a few that are pretty petrified right now about the situation and what they're going to do day to day. So every business is a little different.
I have seen some restaurants move away from doing the takeout thing. I think in some of the smaller communities, the whole concept of, takeout being able to sustain you over a longer, over, what could be a month or two or maybe 3 months before this is finally wrapped up.
You got to order food. If you're going to take takeout and have your full menu, you got to stock the freezer, and and you got to have a cook on staff. So some people, and I can't blame them, are taking the route of we're just going to shut down and as few expenses as we can until we're able to open up full again. And obviously the restaurants are the ones that are really getting hammered. But if you think you can look at every individual business that you know of and look at the ways that this might potentially impact them. You got to think about who their customers are and how those people are being impacted. And it's still for us. We sent out our monthly bills yesterday for April, and we'll see who's going to pay them.
Yeah, that's the world we live in, and we wouldn't know all about this, and everybody wouldn't be as informed if it wasn't really for Josh Durso and the team of the news at FingerLakes1.com, because really, we have all the local news, and you've been probably super busy, huh?
Yeah, it's a great thing. When you have a crisis like this, it just never stops. Yeah. So there is no 9 to 5. There is no 5 to 5. There is none of that. We've been watching a lot of things. Of course, everyone wants to know how many confirmed cases there are, how many active cases there are. But the interesting thing, I think, over the last maybe 2 or 3 days, the focus has shifted. So we've shifted away from, I'll use Cayuga County as an example. Cayuga County right now has 4 total cases. You've got 3 of those which have recovered because they were early detected. But the number that a lot of people are gaining interest in now is how many folks have been tested. And this is the real issue. You sort of give you sort of a scope here of what I'm talking about. Monroe County has 300 cases confirmed. 76 have recovered, but they've tested over 3,000 people. So they've tested 3,152 people. Look at a place like Seneca County. 1 confirmed case and 65 tests completed as of a couple days ago at last update. Schuyler County, similar situation, 84 people tested. Now, of course, it depends on a lot of different factors. But the issue now is becoming pretty clear that the availability of testing supplies, PPE, the personal protective equipment that obviously is necessary for people in healthcare to safely do these tests isn't widely available in these communities. And it was an issue that we were seeing in urban settings, a month ago, right, when Seattle was going through this first, and we sort of saw that play out in New York City and New Rochelle and some of the other places in New York State that were hit pretty hard. But this is going to probably be a bigger problem for rural communities that are already having a difficult time ordinarily under non-crisis situation, getting funding, getting supplies, getting the things that they need from the state and the federal government to sort of work through this. Of course, we're updating the list of how many people have been tested, how many active cases there are, how many people have recovered, all in our story that's on Finger Lakes One on the top of the homepage right now. It's sort of our catch-all. We're posting some interesting stories from around the region there, as well as the count county by county, which of course is definitely important right now. Another interesting aspect I think of this story is that the way that this is being handled and the way information is being disseminated from your various public health officials throughout the region varies pretty wildly, county by county. Cayuga County did a live stream yesterday of basically updating everybody where they stand on COVID. Yeah. But you compare that to a county like Schuyler, Seneca, Yates, Wayne. It's more difficult to get information from those counties because they are not staffed the way even some of the larger counties, or the counties that we consider large here in the Finger Lakes, are staffed. So everyone is just sort of doing the best they can. And while there probably is a lot of frustration in terms of maybe not having what some folks feel like is the best response or the most information immediately available, at the end of the day, everyone is just doing as much as they can. And, at the end of the day, it's pretty simple. Stay inside if you can. Social distancing, not complicated stuff. Don't go to the store if you don't need to go to the store.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands, general things like that. I mean, it's the simple stuff that we've now been hearing for a month. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I especially on social media, Facebook, a wonderful place, I am seeing a ton of people say, well, this is just going to be until the middle or end of April. Just get cozy with the idea that this could very well last into June. Get comfortable. Virginia probably took the sternest stance on this that any state has made to date. They issued a shelter-in-place order that does not expire until June 10th.
Wow.
And they made that 2 days ago. So this is sort of I understand Governor Cuomo's approach. I prefer that in terms of preserving the psyche of the average resident. I think it's better, right? Yeah. But at the end of the day, just because we're going week by week or every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, at the end of the day, this very well could last just as long. So just get comfortable with it and figure out different ways that you can stay sane.
Well, I think the next, here in New York State and here in the Finger Lakes, the next week or two is going to be key. It's the time where you really want to buckle down because now we have these confirmed cases. And remember, New York City started with one case, then it was like 15 cases, and
exponential growth.
And then watching the White House news briefing last night, they said nationwide we should expect a minimum of 100,000 people to die nationwide. So it's going to go in waves, different parts of the country, but our wave here in New York State, upstate New York, is kind of just starting now. So everything that we can do now to mitigate the spread will have huge implications on how bad it could get.
And another note there to that end. I mean, if you have plans to travel outside of New York State, any time the rest of this calendar year, re-examine. I mean, at this point, you cannot, because each state, like you said, is being affected differently and at different times. And there are some states that aren't even experiencing sort of what we in New York were experiencing 3 weeks ago. So, there are places in the U.S. right now that could, in theory, be between basically like 30 and 90 days behind. That means just because things open back up here in New York, or things start to improve here in New York, say in May or June, that may not happen in other states until August or September, or potentially later than that. So keep that in mind as well. And of course, you've still got the travel the travel bans outside of the country that are indefinite. There is no clear timeline right now in terms of when traveling into Europe or traveling into some of the places overseas that have been hit, just as bad as the U.S. has been. There's no clear estimate as to when that will reopen. So, travel plans, just because I understand wanting to be optimistic, but I'm just here to sort of quell that optimism just a tiny bit, so maybe you're a little more prepared when reality does come in June or July.
Yeah, regardless of what you predict, if you don't want this to last into June, then now is the time to, like I say, to really buckle down here in the Finger Lakes region and try to keep those overall numbers lower. Because if you went back to a week ago, there was no cases in Yates, Schuyler, or Seneca. There might have been 1 or 2 cases in Cayuga. And now you can see, with the numbers Josh gave off the top, there's cases in every county. And there's how many cases in Cayuga County?
Only in Cayuga County?
Yeah.
Only 4 cases right now, which is sort of remarkable given that, like, you take Ontario, for example, there's 27 cases in Ontario County, 36 cases in Steuben County, 48 cases active in Tompkins County. I mean, it varies
200 and something in Onondaga, 300 something in Monroe, to the bigger cities to our east or west, where still to this day there are people from the Finger Lakes going to and from those cities.
Oh, yeah. And that's what, this is what I think about often. I think it's great to have Josh to work with him because I am such an optimistic person, but I'm also realistic. And he kind of like grounds me because I'm like, it's going to be okay. People are going to listen. It's going to be great. But in all reality, that's not the case. And I think what people are seeing in the small areas that I am around, these few towns, people are like, well, in Italy, they're like cleared up, and in this place, they're clearing up, but they're not thinking about how we haven't even started. And I keep telling people, like, we've only just begun, and nobody's taking that serious. And it worries me with the weather getting warmer, people getting more like, I've been in the house all day, so now I need to go out and explore and expose myself to the thousands of people that are walking up and down the lake right now. I just wish that I could be optimistic and be like, yes, people are going to listen. But the realistic side of, like, Josh likes to make sure that I know too, is people aren't going to listen and they're not going to take the caution that they need, and it's going to last way longer.
See, that's the thing that I think kind of, from the news perspective, while I totally understand why certain elected officials, especially at the state and federal level are saying, if we buckle down now, this won't be as long. But I don't think any of the numbers indicate that just because we buckle down now means it's not going to last a long time. There are going to be restrictions in place. Maybe your favorite restaurant will be able to open up by like June or July, which everyone will be happy about that. But at the end of the day, this is something that we can't just make disappear until we have a vaccine and a treatment. That's like months away still. That's months away still. So, it's all relative, and unfortunately, like you said, Sydney, that's a great point, because until people start to see it impact their own community in a more serious way than what a handful of cases would indicate, it isn't real for those people. So that is that pushback against it. Well, it's just happening in New York City, or it's just happening in Rochester, or it's just happening in Italy. You don't ever want to be in the situation that Italy finds itself right now.
Or New York City right now. Some of the footage out of New York City hospitals over the last 48 hours has been very similar to some of the footage that you saw in Italy.
And none of these places have peaked. Governor Cuomo is giving his daily briefing right now as we're recording this. And New York State is still between 15 and 21 days away from reaching peak. So as far as hospitalizations go, as far as infected goes, as far as fatalities
theoretically, as you rise to the peak, every day there's hundreds of more cases and hundreds of more hospitalizations. So,
and less supplies.
Cuomo and Trump are kind of not necessarily getting along great. And from what I've seen from the past couple days of press briefings where, Trump is saying that Cuomo should be happy. We gave him this, we gave him that. And Cuomo's like, it's not even close to enough. And really, what makes me angry, not to bring politics into it, is listening to President Trump's statements less than 25 days ago, where he says, it's all going to go away like a miracle. It's going to disappear.
Everything is great.
There's a similar, and just to sort of throw this out there, there is a very similar video montage available on all the platforms of New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, literally days before the city went into shelter-in-place lockdown, of him saying, go out to your favorite bars and restaurants, patronize those places, everything is going to be fine. And it just, this was one of those things where everyone across the board was severely unprepared for what was coming.
Or just like naive. Like, you see what's happening around, you can't think like, oh, well, we just have this invisible border that's going to make it so they don't come knocking on our states.
Keep making this point over and over again, that the healthcare system and I mean the hospital system, I mean our actual medical system in New York State. We have about 3,000 ICU beds for a state with a population of 19.4 million. That's bad math. No matter how pandemic or not, I understand that it's never been stressed like this, but truth be told, that even if we have a quarter pandemic, if you want to call it that, the system is still going to be stretched in a way that it hasn't ever been before because we're not investing correctly in those systems. So when this is all said and done, I'm hoping that's the thing that changes, is that there is better investment in those infrastructures. So we are prepared when something like this happens, because to sit and say that we can't be prepared for something like this, I think is the saddest and most un-American thing that anyone can say, because we are basically the leading nation in the world. We should be able to prepare for something like this. We really should.
Those numbers are horrible. Well, there's sickening, those bed numbers.
There's stories out there now about government contracts that were in place in the 2000s for production of more ventilators that never came to fruition, where the federal government spent, I can't remember if it was millions or billions, but it just never came to fruition. Those ventilators were never produced and available.
And here we are. Wow. Anyways, I mean, we could talk on and on about
I would just like to, can I just throw one thing in here?
Yes,
we just closed out March. Today is April 1st. FigureLakes1.com this past month was visited 3.7 million times, a little over 3.7 million times. 3.7 million times. It's insane.
That's like over a million like that we're used to. We usually are.
So it's almost a million a week.
Yeah. Our record-breaking, so basically over the last 3 months, we have broken our monthly traffic records month over month. And this is about a million over what our record month was in December 2019. So this growth has been out of control. It's really, really insane.
And a lot of our users have complained, rightfully so, that our site has been inaccessible at times or really slow loading. And the reason why is like we could have, even though we anticipated growth, we could have never anticipated the type of traffic we've been receiving this month. So because of that, and because of the state of the business climate right now, has allowed us to devote resources towards a project that we've been trying to do for
the last 2 weeks.
A while.
Well, for over a year now, we've been trying to find time to redesign our site at FingerLakes1.com for a lot of reasons, but one reason that's glaringly clear now is to be able to accommodate large number of visitors. And we are going to launch that new site, fingers crossed, by the end of the day today.
Yay, that's so exciting. It should be exciting for everybody that's stressful. Watching, too.
For me, it's exciting, but very stressful.
It should be exciting.
A lot can go wrong. And with any new site, there's going to be bumps. There's going to be some features, I guess, missing that may have been available on the old site that we're going to re-add over the upcoming weeks. Things like classifieds and our events calendar, which it's a perfect time for the events calendar to give it a major upgrade because every event that was on there was canceled anyway. So there's no reason for the events calendar. But the new events calendar, I'm hoping, is going to have support for like live web events as well. So even like our shows that we have scheduled here or any of our live broadcasts will be included in the events calendar as well, and along with all the non-for-profit events and so it should, and festivals and all that. So when things do get back going, it should be an improvement. But we're excited about the new website. Can't wait for y'all to see it. It won't be long now.
They should be excited too, because we are the only local news in this area, and all the Finger Lakes that is bringing you what you need right now. Really.
Yeah. Well, we didn't lay off any staff, right?
Still here.
We're all still here.
Thankful for that. I mean, thank you. I mean, a lot of people kind of wish they were working right now, and we're lucky enough to be able to.
A lot of news organizations, a lot of the larger corporations, Gannett, Lee, some of the major players in publishing right now have already begun furloughing reporters and requiring basically 25% cuts. It puts communities in a terrible spot because these newsrooms are already so small. And actually, Friday we're going to do a podcast on this topic. Ted Baker is going to be in, and we're going to talk about the dynamics and where this is going to leave a lot of communities. But our mission doesn't change when this happens, and we buckle down and we keep going. And at the end of the day, local ownership matters in journalism. It matters in news. If you're owned by a corporation, all the subscribers in the world aren't going to end the challenge or the struggle, which is getting these people to understand that the little tiny communities that this corporation is serving actually matter. That never happens here. We know every community in the Finger Lakes matters.
Well, I can't understand. I mean, every business model is different, and when you're in business, there's a certain reality that the bottom line is the bottom line, and you have to meet certain financial obligations or you will cease to exist in some form or another. So every business model is different, but I cannot understand how in this time right now that a news organization would be thinking of cutting back. This is what it's all about.
Yeah. Well,
this is where people need information that's important to their survival and their livelihoods. And if there's no local media, you're only getting information from a national or state perspective. There needs to be someone to communicate the things that are important to these residents' lives. So this is a horrible time, but it's also exciting in the fact that so many people are turning to Finger Lakes 1 because we're the only game in town right now, really, on an hour-to-hour basis. And I think we've done a good job of keeping people informed, and we're hoping to continue to do that more so than ever. Which, Josh, might be a good time to make a plea to our for Patreon subscribers.
Oh, that's not even what I was thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. So, three things. First, obviously, go to patreon.com/FO1. That is the easiest way to support what we do here, whether it's the podcast, whether it's the news, whether it's the headlines, the sports, the lifestyle stuff, whatever it is that you enjoy at fingerlakes1.com. There's never a paywall. There's never going to be a paywall. And at the end of the day, those who can contribute, those who would like to contribute, www.patreon.com/FL1. You can become a monthly supporter there, and we obviously greatly appreciate everyone who can. A couple programming changes, I guess, and content changes that are coming up.
Nice.
We have a new newsletter that's going to be dropping every Sunday. We'll have a spot on the new website for you to actually sign up for that. It's going to be a rundown of the week's headlines, some of the things that occasionally get lost in our feed because it's so expansive and being updated so quickly. Yeah. So it's going to have some of that. It's going to have a little bit of, as the name suggests, a little insight behind the headlines as well. And it's going to be a more concise package for people to get in their inbox every Sunday. So if you want to be on that list for now, you can just send an email to news@fingerlakes1.com. And then, of course, we are obviously reshuffling and relaunching the Debrief podcast, which has historically been our Friday show here in the studio. We are changing it to a daily show, which will be audio only for now. And it will be 10 to 15.
The main Friday show will still be normal, though, right? Video?
It will still. So that will become an Inside the FLX. So every Friday we will produce an in-person 30 to 60 minute conversation on all of the things that have been going on in that period. But the debrief is going to be a daily show, 10 to 15 to 20 minutes long-ish, and it will be a deep dive basically into individual issues. Cool. One of the issues that we had with the show in the previous format, which was weekly, getting into maybe 5, 6, or 7 topics over an hour, it becomes difficult for folks who want to hear about specific things to find those things and then share those things. So this is going to basically allow us to get specific and go a little more in depth with some different perspectives on individual issues rather than having a single panel talk about 4, 5, or 6 things that maybe they don't all have the greatest perspective on per se.
Makes perfect
so
sense.
Those things are all launching. The newsletter launches this Sunday, April 5th, and then the new debrief, the new daily debrief starts Monday, April 6th. Right on fingerlakes1.com. It will be given a nice prominent spot on our homepage when
our new
we relaunch.
Homepage.
Brand new homepage.
So we have some exciting stuff coming up, and it's all
Lots.
just to help you guys at home be informed, because that's our job. But that's like, we almost are out of time, so I usually would ask what everybody has going on for the weekend.
I'm going to play golf, socially responsible golf, single golf cart rider golf, no contact, not going inside the facility golf. With my friends.
That will be great. Is the
I'm gonna
weather?
cook
We didn't
food.
look at the weather, but
the weather's going to be pretty
looks
nice
like,
this
yeah.
weekend. Yeah, the rain's kind of done, except for maybe a potential of a small sprinkle here and there through next week. Through Monday of next week, no rain in the forecast. So.
I should probably take my snow tires off now, huh?
Yeah, and it's a good time too to get out in the yard, in your own yard, and get things in order. So hopefully, as the weather gets better, that people will get out more. You can still be responsible and practice your social distancing by getting out into your yard, going for walks, and like I said, playing golf. That's one thing that we can all do as a golfer. I feel perfectly safe out there. I feel reinvigorated. I played a lot of golf over the last month, actually, more than I probably ever played in March.
Clarity.
Oh yeah, you're outside. You're doing something. It's kind of an escape.
I'm going to take down some wallpaper that is long overdue in my house, because why not? Every other weekend I have things going on where I'm like, okay, I got to go to this party. I got to go to this wedding. I got to go to this baby shower. Now I'm like, wow, all right, time to do some house stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cooking a lot too.
I know you have been. I wish I could cook as well as you. I probably could learn, but I am too lazy to
Cooking
really learn.
is not difficult.
I know, and I'm just like, oh, I have to get this ingredient. I don't have this, and I don't have this.
Well, that is part of it, yeah.
Listen,
to get the ingredients.
Everybody has plenty of time now.
Yeah, it's true. Well, that's really about all the time that we have, and I think it was a great show. Thank you for joining us, Josh.
Welcome back
Back.
to the show, Josh. When's the
Back.
last time you were on? Like maybe in the fall?
Yeah, I think so.
A random
It was a while
time
ago.
we were like, hey, I need you on the show. But
Yeah.
thank
It was
you,
great to be
everybody.
back.
Yeah, you did great. You had a lot of good information for all of us. Thank you, everyone out there who was watching. We will be back next Wednesday. And, of course, enjoy. Oh, my goodness, I can't even do this anymore. All right. If you like this, you can subscribe to our channel. YouTube.
Follow us on Twitter.
Like us.
FLX1.
Follow us. Yeah. And we'll be back next Wednesday. Have a safe and healthy weekend here in the Finger Lakes.
Yeah, everybody be safe.
Yeah.
Wow.